You're listening to the 1% Fitness Podcast, the show built around one simple idea: no extremes, no crash diets, just small daily wins that compound into something special, just 1% better every single day. Here's your host, Ben Booth.
Right then, welcome back to the 1% Fitness Podcast. Episode 2, we're doing this. First, thank you, genuinely. The response to episode 1 was incredible. The messages, the shares, the people saying, that's literally me. That's exactly why I started this. So if you're one of those people who listened, shared it, or told a mate about it, thank you. It means a lot. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, go back and do that first. It's not essential, but this episode follows on naturally from it. Episode 1 was about why you're not losing fat, even when you think you're doing everything right. Today, we're going one step further, because after that episode went out, the number one question I kept getting was this. Okay, Ben, I get it. I need to be in a calorie deficit, but how do I actually know how much to eat? And honestly, it's a brilliant question, because nobody ever really answers it properly. They say, eat less, move more, which is technically true, but about as useful as telling someone who's lost that they need to go the right way. Or they throw a load of complicated numbers at you, TDEE, BMR, macros, and you end up being more confused than when you started. So today, I'm going to give you a proper, practical answer. No overcomplicated science, no calculator that spits out a number that you don't understand, just a clear, simple framework you can actually use. Let's get into it. Right, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. Eat less, move more. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that trotted out as advice. And yes, technically it's correct. I use it myself. If you consume fewer calories than you burn, you'll lose fat. That's just physics. But here's the problem with that advice. It assumes you know how much you're eating in the first place. And as we talked about in episode 1, most people genuinely don't. They think they're eating 1,500 calories when they're probably eating 2,200. They think their portions are reasonable, but nobody's measured them. They think their healthy lunch is fine, but the dressing alone is 300 something calories. So eat less is completely useless advice unless you have some idea of where you're starting from. And move more, don't even get me started. You can train 5 times a week and completely undo it in one weekend if you're not paying attention to food. Exercise is brilliant. I love it. But it's not a fat loss strategy on its own. A 45-minute run burns roughly 400 calories for most people. A large glass of wine is 250 calories. A bag of Maltesers, 187 calories. You see where I'm going with this? Exercise matters. It's important for your health, your strength, your mental well-being, but you cannot out-train a bad diet. And if you're relying on the gym to create your calorie deficit, that's a really fragile strategy. So, how much should you actually eat? Let me give you a framework that's simple, practical, and works for most people. Now, everyone is different. Your height, your weight, how active you are, your age. These all affect how many calories your body burns. But as a starting point, here's a rough guide. For most people looking to lose fat, a daily intake of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 calories is a reasonable starting point. Women often sit towards the lower end of that, and men a bit higher. But honestly, these numbers are just to start from. They're not gospel. The key thing is creating a deficit of around 300 to 500 calories below what your body needs to maintain its current weight. Now, why 300 to 500? Because that's the sweet spot. Going too small, say 100 calories under, and progress is painfully slow. You'll be doing all that work for barely any result. You go too aggressive, dropping 1,000 calories overnight, and a few things happen. You're hungry all the time. You lose muscle as well as fat. Your energy crashes, you start to feel miserable, and then you quit. I've seen it so many times. Someone decides to start a diet on Monday, they cut everything. They're surviving on salad and determination. By Thursday, they're raiding the biscuits in. By the weekend, it's literally gone Pete Tong. That's not a willpower problem, that's a strategy problem. 300 to 500 calories under maintenance, that's sustainable, that's manageable, and it's a deficit you can live with long term. And at that rate, you're probably looking at about half a pound to a pound of fat loss per week, which doesn't sound like much, but over 12 weeks, that's potentially 12 pounds. Over 6 months, that's a completely different body. Now, calories matter most, but while we're here, let's talk about protein, because this is the piece that most people completely underestimate. When you're in a calorie deficit, your body isn't just burning fat, it's also at risk of breaking down muscle for energy, and you don't want that. Muscle is your metabolic engine. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest. Lose muscle, and your metabolism slows down. Fat loss gets harder, and it's a vicious cycle. Protein is what protects your muscle while you're in a deficit. It also keeps you fuller for longer. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, meaning it keeps hunger at bay better than carbs or fat. Which means when you're eating in a deficit and you're a bit hungry, protein is your best friend. And here's the really simple version of how much you need. Aim for roughly your body weight in grams. So if you weigh 75 kilos, you're aiming for around 75 grams of protein a day as a minimum. Ideally, closer to 100 to 130 if you can. Now, before anyone panics, you don't need to be shoveling protein shakes every hour. Eggs, chicken, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, tuna, salmon, lean mince, tofu if you're a veggie, a decent protein shake if you're struggling. These are all high protein, filling, and relatively low in calories. Build your meals around them and everything else becomes a lot easier. Right, so now you've got a calorie deficit and a protein target. Great. But how do you know if you're actually hitting them? And this is where most people fall into one of two camps. Camp 1, they never track anything. They eat by feel and then wonder why they're not making progress. Camp 2, they download MyFitnessPal, weigh every single gram of food, and within 2 weeks, they're so bored and fed up of it that they quit entirely. Neither of those works long term. So here's what I'd suggest instead. Start by tracking for just 2 weeks. Not forever, just 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Because that's long enough to give you genuine awareness of what you're eating. You'll spot the patterns. You'll see where the extra calories are coming from. You'll realize things that you never even thought about. After 2 weeks, most people find they don't need to track obsessively anymore. They've built the knowledge. They know the basics. They know roughly what's in things. They can eat intuitively with much more accurate compass. And when it comes to actually tracking, you don't need to be perfect. You really don't. Track your main meals. Be honest about portion sizes. Log the snacks. And if you're out for a meal and you can't track it exactly, make a sensible estimate and move on. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. Because awareness is what changes behavior, not knowing your macros down to the decimal point. Let me give you a really simple example of what a day might look like. Let's say you're aiming for 1,700 calories and 120 grams of protein. Breakfast could be 3 eggs, scrambled with some smoked salmon. Maybe a slice of whole grain toast. That's roughly 400 calories and 35 grams of protein. Lunch, a chicken breast with some roasted veg and a bit of rice. Around 450 calories, another 40 grams of protein. Dinner, lean beef stir fry with noodles and vegetables. Around 500 calories, 35 grams of protein. That leaves you with 350 calories for snacks and drinks throughout the day. Maybe a Greek yogurt, a piece of fruit, and a couple of oat cakes. You've hit your calories. You've nearly hit your protein. You've eaten 4 times. You haven't starved. That is what sustainable fat loss actually looks like. It's not miserable. It's not a punishment. It's just being a bit more intentional about what goes on your plate.
Quick one before we carry on, because if you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I need to actually do something about this, this is your moment. 4 times a year, Ben opens the doors to the 90-day 1% transformation. 90 days of structured training, nutrition guidance, weekly accountability, and coaching support, all built around that one simple principle, just 1% better every single day, and it's just £90. That's literally £1 a day. The next intake starts the 1st of April, and spaces are limited. At the end of the 90 days, the member who shows the most powerful transformation wins a £250 Amazon gift card. Head to thefitnessbooth.co.uk/90days to secure your spot. If you've ever felt like you're doing everything right but still not losing fat, this is for you. Ben's Fat Loss Masterclass is 44 lessons covering everything you actually need to crack fat loss for good. The real fat loss equation, how to eat without feeling like you're on a diet, training that builds a body you're proud of, and how to stay consistent when life gets in the way, the weekends, the meals out, the busy weeks. No fluff, no fads. Just a clear, practical system that works in the real world. It's all waiting for you at thefitnessbooth.co.uk/masterclass.
Right, before we close out, we've got a Q&A section, and I want to make this a proper regular thing. So if you've got a question, anything at all about fat loss, training, nutrition, mindset, whatever, send it in. You can email us at thefitnessbooth@gmail.com or find us on TikTok or Instagram and send us a DM. Just search The Fitness Booth. And I post something every single day over on The Fitness Booth Talks on YouTube as well. So head over there if you want shorter, daily content in between episodes. Most of those videos are about 4 to 6 minutes long. Right, 3 questions for you this week. Question 1. This one comes in from Sarah, and she asks, Ben, I've heard you shouldn't eat under 1,200 calories because it slows your metabolism. Is that true? Sarah, great question. And the short answer is, it's complicated. The 1,200 calorie rule gets thrown around everywhere. And while there's some truth behind it, it's also massively oversimplified. Here's what's actually happening. When you eat significantly below your maintenance calories for an extended period, say several months, your body does adapt. It gets more efficient. It burns slightly fewer calories. This is sometimes called metabolic adaptation, or more dramatically, starvation mode. But here's the key word: significantly. An extended period. Eating 1,300 calories for a week is not going to break your metabolism. What causes problems is eating 800 calories for 6 months, because that kind of restriction does lead to muscle loss, hormonal disruption, and yes, a slower metabolism over time. The goal is to be in a moderate deficit, as we talked about, 300 to 500 calories under maintenance, not to eat as little as humanly possible. For most women, 1,200 to 1,400 calories is genuinely on the low end. For most men, it's even lower than they need. But 1,200 isn't some magic floor. It's just a rough minimum below, which most people struggle to get adequate nutrition. So, don't obsess over the number. Focus on a moderate, sustainable deficit. That's where the magic is. Question 2. This one's from Jamie, who asks, I've been eating well all week, but I went out for a meal at the weekend and I feel like I've ruined absolutely everything. How do I get back on track? Okay, Jamie, first of all, you haven't ruined anything. I want to be clear about that. One meal out does not undo a week of good work. Not even close. Let's put it into perspective. Even if that meal was around 1,500 calories over what you'd normally have, which would be a really big meal, that's still less than half a pound of actual fat. And your body doesn't store it all as fat overnight anyway. The damage, if there is any, is usually done in what happens next. You feel guilty. You decide the week is ruined, you give yourself permission to write off the weekend, and then by Sunday night, you've actually undone the week. That's the cycle. And it's the thinking that causes the problem, not the meal. The answer is simple. Next meal, get back on track. Not Monday, not tomorrow, the next meal. One meal out is not a problem. It's called having a life. Build it into your week if you know it's coming. Be a little tighter earlier in the day. Make sensible choices where you can on the menu, and then enjoy yourself without the guilt. Guilt around food is one of the most damaging things in the fat loss journey. You are allowed to eat out. You are allowed to enjoy food. Just keep the bigger picture in view. Okay, question number 3. This one comes from a DM, someone who preferred to stay anonymous, and they ask, is it true that eating late at night makes you fat? Oh, this one, right. No. Eating late at night does not make you fat. I'll say it again for the people at the back. Eating late does not make you fat. What makes you fat is being in a calorie surplus, consistently consuming more than your body burns. The time at which those calories consumed does not matter anywhere near as much as people think. Now, there is a reason that this myth exists, and it's this. Late night eating tends to be higher calorie. Crisps, chocolate, takeaways, ice cream. It's not usually carrot sticks at 10 o'clock, is it? So it's not the timing, it's what people tend to eat when they eat late. If you're someone who eats your meals throughout the day and then has a small, sensible snack in the evening, that's absolutely fine. A bowl of Greek yogurt at 9 p.m. is not going to sabotage your fat loss. But if eating late for you means a bag of Doritos, a few biscuits, and a takeaway after dinner every night, then yeah, it's a calorie problem, just not a timing one. Eat when it works for your life, but just be mindful of what and how much. So there we go. Episode 2 done. To recap the key things from today, eat less, move more is useless advice without context. What you actually need is a moderate calorie deficit. 300 to 500 calories below your maintenance, that you can sustain week after week. Protein is your best mate in a deficit. Aim for roughly your body weight in grams as a minimum. It'll keep you full, protects your muscle, and makes the whole thing a lot more manageable. And track for 2 weeks to build awareness. Not forever. Just enough to understand where you're actually at. If this episode helped, please share it. Leave a review if you're enjoying the show. It genuinely helps the more people find it. And don't forget, send your questions in for the Q&A. Email us at thefitnessbooth@gmail.com or find us on TikTok and Instagram. Just search The Fitness Booth. Daily content is over on The Fitness Booth Talks on YouTube. I post something every single day over there, so come on and join us. And if you're ready to take proper action, head to thefitnessbooth.co.uk where you can find recipe packs, the 90-day transformation, and the Fat Loss Masterclass. It's all there. I'm Ben. This is the 1% Fitness Podcast, and I will see you on Friday.